Right. Listen, Hohen's gunpowder machine was basically useless, but it served as a subject for reflection for the next inventor. Namely, in the year 1690, a certain Danish Papin replaced gunpowder explosions with steam. It worked more or less like this. The boiling water in the small boiler simply pushed the piston in such a cylinder slightly upward. The steam pressure would move the piston, and to return the piston to its original position, you would simply cool the cylinder in which the piston operated. The steam would condense, the pressure would drop, the piston would fall, and this device could basically be considered the first kind of steam engine, although it operated incredibly slowly. It performed a power stroke about once per minute, which of course was not satisfactory for anyone. As a result, this machine wasn't really suitable for anything in particular either. However, the development of this device, that is separating the boiler with boiling water and steam from the cylinder with the piston, which was simply easier to cool, meant that this machine started to make sense in some way, and I would even say found some practical applications. A certain Thomas Savery in the year 1702, which was a long time ago, created this type of machine. In fact, he built it in 1698, and in 1702 he even started a company producing such devices. They were efficient enough that they found applications in various areas of life. Because this engine already ran a bit faster, it pumped water in mines and was suitable for production and for working in tougher conditions. And this machine, which was constantly being improved, kept working. The year 1702, just to make you aware, my dear friends, of when this was, during the Third Northern War, Swedish troops invaded Częstochowa. We were settling near Częstochowa, granted. Kmicic blew up the culverin a bit earlier, but I would say only a bit earlier, and already, so to speak, in Great Britain, the first steam engines were beginning to operate. Listen, in the year 1722, such a machine was installed for the first time in Banska Bystrica in a mine, and it was simply used there for pumping water and operated for a very, very long time. However, all of these were machines that operated in a kind of one-sided manner, meaning that the steam would gather on one side of the piston, and you could say that going forward they were still atmospheric machines. It was not until the year 1782 that a certain James Watt, whom I'm sure everyone has heard of, patented a double-acting device, and from that point on, steam engines simply took over the world. Basically, you could say that with them, the industrial era in the world began. They powered everything: process sawmills, mines, not to mention locomotives and other such devices. That machine I mentioned earlier, the atmospheric one with a single acting piston, those were still able to operate even at the end of the 19th century. They were still in use in some places around the world and somehow managed to get the job done. And now, since there was already something like an engine and a separate boiler, it was hard, so to speak, not to come up with a vehicle that could operate in this way. After all, carriages, wagons, buggies, and other types of horse-drawn vehicles have been known to humanity basically since the dawn of time. The idea to combine, how should I put it, a carriage, or maybe not even a carriage, but rather a very heavy three-wheeled frame with a steam engine, including the boiler, was conceived in 1769 by Nicolas Cugnot. I believe that's how his name is pronounced. What's more, the Frenchmen used this to build such a three-wheeled vehicle for the needs of the French military. This machine was simply monstrously heavy, monstrously clumsy. It had two wheels at the back, one wheel at the front, and in front of that wheel there was a steam boiler installed, which supplied steam to the engine. This vehicle was used as a heavy artillery tractor. What's more, it apparently even worked to some extent. At least that's what historians write about it. This machine could pull up to 4 tons, which I would say is quite a lot. I don't know how much horses can pull, but probably a bit less. And interestingly, in the year 1771, someone driving this artillery tractor failed to make a turn, you could say, and crashed into a wall. And we can consider this incident to be the first road accident in human history. Granted, the machine was moving at a speed of 4 to 5 kilometers per hour, but it was so incredibly heavy and difficult to steer that, well, the accident happened. So remember the year 1771. The first car accident in the history of humanity. However, the vehicles, or rather not the vehicles, but the steam engines themselves, were constantly being improved. A major milestone, I think, in their development was the invention of the centrifugal steam pressure regulator, which allowed, so to speak, the operation of this device to be stabilized. Because steam engines could already be made really small. I myself have seen at some exhibitions even a grinder, like a coffee grinder or something similar, powered by steam, very tiny, not to mention children's toys, which in the 19th century actually ran on steam and so on. It was hard not to combine these two, so to speak, constructions, that is the bicycle frame and the steam engine. The only thing is, as I mentioned at the beginning, something like a bicycle frame, though, it may be hard to imagine it didn't actually exist yet, because in the year 1867, in roughly 2 places in the world, that is in the United States and in France, 2 inventors more or less simultaneously created a steam motorcycle. Let's say these were Mrs. Michaud and Perrault in France and Sylvester Roper in the USA. Roper, his design is considered the first motorcycle in the world. What's more, it has survived to this day. Shortly after production of motorcycles began, well, he started what we might call serial production of this type of motorcycle, and to this day 2 or 3 examples of this machine are still running in the world. And this was around the year, like I said, 1867, when no one was even thinking about combustion engines yet. But steam motorcycles were already running. Roper built a new and improved version of his machine a few years later. Why? Well, precisely because bicycle frames had started to appear by then, and he was able to produce a motorcycle that, well, let's say a self-propelled single-track vehicle that resembled in appearance a motorcycle or a bicycle, because that's when bicycle frames first appeared. Earlier on, I'll talk about this in another episode. People used to ride penny farthings, you know, those with a huge front wheel, sometimes even several meters in diameter, and a tiny one at the back. That thing, of course, wasn't suitable for attaching an engine, although I'm sure some inventors tried. However, the first reasonably practical and decently functioning steam motorcycle is considered to be Roper's motorcycle from 1894. If you search around on the internet, you can even find photos or videos of this vehicle in action to check out. In my humble opinion, that's precisely how the remarkable era of powerful steam engine motorcycles truly began, marking a significant turning point in transportation history. And in a moment we'll move on to talk about something even stranger: electric motorcycles.